Hey guys, what's up? So, in today's video for this Saturday, I'm gonna be doing, I'm gonna read three, like, creepy, true, ghost stories, scary ghost stories that are true, apparently. My sister actually sent me these, on my email, Tiffany Reads Scary Stories. Please send me any type of story. It doesn't have to be paranormal or scary or anything like that. Just send me a story you want me to read from that email and I will read it. So let's just get started. And actually before I start, I was gonna film a lot earlier than this. It's actually not that late. It's 8:56 right now. Yeah, it's 8:56. And I wanted to film like 3 or 4 hours ago, but I never got around to it, I guess. But yeah, I'm filming now, because if I didn't film right now, I would have forgotten and I would have beat myself up for it, because I really want to keep going on this schedule as much as I can. And I know there's going to be days where I'm just not feeling it and I don't post, but I want to keep this up for as long as I can, if not like forever without stopping. We'll see what happens. But so for this Saturday's video, I'm going to be reading these, like I said in the beginning. So the first one is it's not a story, but it's like a poem that is kind of sad, and it's not like scary. My sister actually sent me this almost 2 months ago. It's like a month and a half ago. I don't know why I haven't read this yet, but so yeah, this is a poem called Hurt and Pain. So here it is. Hurt and pain. Hurt and pain, there's much to gain. Peace and love, it's all the same. Confusion and doubt, we're not without. We weep, we cry, we plead, we try. We laugh, we smile, only to be hurt by one last trial. Life is a lesson, so learn it well. Maybe one day you can tell his tale. So that's the poem called Hurt and Pain. I mean, it's not really like really sad, but like certain words are like, oh man, why? Like make you feel kind of sad. So yeah. Now we're gonna get to the scary stories. Like scary, I think it said like scary true ghost stories or something like that. I'll have to look it up on what the website says and name that in the video. There was 7 of these. 7. And I only want to read 3 right now because I don't want to make this a really long video. But, so yeah, here's the first one. It's called The Figure in Dark Robes. I've told this to a select few, and while creepiest, scariest is subjective, in the context of my life, it truly is the creepiest and scariest unsolved mystery. I was a freshman in high school in my hometown of La Crosse, Wisconsin. I was sleeping over at my friend Tom's house. We were watching a movie in his living room when he suddenly got a phone call. I watched as he listened to what was being said on the other line. I watched as emotion poured over his face as he threw the phone across the room. After moments of crying, he told me that a boy at my school had committed suicide. Now, I knew this boy only through seeing him in the halls. My friend Tom and I didn't go to the same high school, but Tom had gone to middle school with this boy. Apparently, Tom bullied him during those years. He wasn't proud of it, and to be honest, I was pretty surprised because he was a great guy. He had utter remorse. We decided to sneak out and go for a walk. The year was roughly 1990, maybe 1991. We were freshmen in high school. Now, sneaking out was nothing new. We always did it. At the time, we weren't into drugs, alcohol, or partying. We just liked the freedom of walking the streets at night. The discussions were always great. Normally, we'd go walk through the big cemetery that was near my house. It was behind the train tracks that still run through across to this day. We loved the danger of the cemetery, the scares. We were kids. It was a rite of passage. As we walked along the train tracks leading to the cemetery, To this day, I can't explain why. We had walked into that cemetery dozens of times, and on scarier nights. For whatever reason, we didn't want to go in there. I don't know if the thought of death on our minds due to my classmate's suicide was a factor. Perhaps. Regardless, without really saying anything to each other, we stopped, turned around, and decided to head down a nearby street. Now, in retrospect, I do have to say that throughout this walk, things seemed off. There wasn't a car in sight. There was suburba. Even walking through the town's main street was odd because there's just weren't any cars. Odd. It was roughly after midnight. It was a weekend night. Where was everybody? Where was everybody? Perhaps just a strange coincidence. Lastly, there was something in the air. Both Tom and I felt it. We even brought it up. It feels weird tonight. The air. The lights. So we decided to walk down a dead-end street. At the end of the street was a ditch with a simple up, down, and up trail that led to the street that I lived on. Simple enough. Keep in mind as I get into the horrifying part of the story, that we were in the suburbs. These were old, creepy houses with strange individuals, and the trees were small. It wasn't a brand new development, but it wasn't that old either. So as Tom and I are walking down the street, we're both looking down to the road beneath our feet as we walk. I don't remember the exact conversation at this particular moment. Perhaps we were talking about the tragedy of that night, but it could have just easily been about Star Wars or Akira. As we approached the dead end, which was a few houses away, Tom and I suddenly stopped. We did so at the same time without saying one word to each other. Our heads slowly turned towards each other, both sensing something. The hair on our arms and backs of our necks, standing high. Then our gaze slowly moved forward in unison, slightly to the right. That's when we saw it. About 2 houses away, in a virtually barren front yard of a suburban home, besides some bushes, was a dark figure. It was someone or something in dark robes. No face, no features at all, just the robe. Now, this figure didn't acknowledge us, not yet. It instead walked or moved in a certain way. I can't articulate it correctly, as if it was walking in circles slowly, without really walking. It held something that was blowing in the wind, and yes, the wind picked up a little bit as well. Another odd element was the light that illuminated it somewhat. There was a street light a few houses up, but it wasn't strong enough to illuminate this figure as it was. Tom and I were frozen. In fact, I'm almost frozen as I write this. It's been a while since I've thought about this night, so there we stood, frozen in fear, staring at this dark figure moving, yet doing so without moving, and it was holding something. Or perhaps what was blowing in the wind was more of its robe, I'm not sure. We stared at this thing for I don't know how long until it stopped and suddenly looked up at us, as if finally alarmed by our presence. That was enough for us. We ran away as fast as we could. We cut through a side street that was led us to a parallel street towards my neighborhood. This street led to a slight hill. As we rounded the corner and started running up the hill in a panic, we stopped because on top of that hill, we saw another dark figure with its arms raised. We turned around and ran in the direction of Tom's house, which at this distance was at least 5 miles away. We ran. Time stood still. The next thing I remember, we're lying in the middle of a courtyard or some other neighborhood that we'd never been in, gasping for breath. We sat up and without saying a word, we walked in silence back to his house. The air felt normal again. Although we felt like we were in a haze all sorts. A bit out of danger. We fell asleep in his house. I woke up that morning and went home. A few days later, I rode my bike to the location. Perhaps it was shadow play. Perhaps there was a certain tree or bush or maybe a for sale sign or something that made it look like there was something else there. Nothing. It was an open yard. Tom and I didn't speak of that night for a long time. Years later, when I brought it up, he replied, "Yeah, what the hell was that?" As if no time had passed. What was it? I have no idea. We hadn't taken any drugs. We hadn't been drinking any alcohol. I often wonder if it could have been a haunting, a specter, a ghost, etc. Maybe it was an alien abduction or sighting. We saw no crap, but there was that unexpected light, or maybe it was some other kids messing with us. But how could they have known we were coming? How could they be so prepared? I just don't know. That was roughly 24 years ago, give or take. And yes, this is a true story. Sadly, my best friend Tom passed suddenly a few months ago. I thought of this night during his funeral. I thought of returning to that site. I thought of the odd coincidence of unexpected and surprising death, just like my classmate that night. Is there a connection? We were seeing some future fate for one of us, which sadly fell upon my best friend Tom. Was this all some dual hallucination in my mind? No way. No way. It haunts me at times. So that is the first story, called The Figure in Dark Robes. Okay, here's the second one. This one's not as long. That was a little long. The second one is called The Little Boy with No Eyes. One night when I was 10, I was asleep in bed and was woken up by my bedroom door opening, then someone sitting on my bed. I felt the graze on my leg and the bed sink as I sat, thinking it was my mom having something to tell me. I opened my eyes only to see a pale, eyeless, just black, empty sockets. Boy, who seemed to be my age, sitting at the foot of my bed with his legs crossed, staring at me, or facing my direction since he had no eyes. He then reached his hand toward me, and he was holding what looked like a little black box. I was freaked out, but as I reached to grab it, he hesitantly pulled back. I reached out further for it and said, "Give it," as I did so. I blinked, and by the time I reopened my eyes, he was gone. The spot of my bed where was sitting lifted back into place, but the imprint of someone sitting there was still present. I told my mom in the morning, and she was slightly freaked, but assured me I was just dreaming. Fast forward 5 years, I had my girlfriend over to do homework. After homework, she took a nap while she waited for her parents to pick her up. When they arrived, I tried waking her to let her know. I nudged her, and she opened her eyes so sudden, already looking in the direction of the corner of the room where the walls meets the ceiling, lifting her finger and pointed, and as fast as she woke, she fell asleep again. I attempted to wake her again. She came to full consciousness, and I asked her what the hell that was about and explained what she just did. She said, "Oh, I thought I was dreaming, but up on the wall I saw a little boy with no eyes just there in the Spider-Man pose staring at me." That's when I freaked out and told her the story. For the first time of when I saw what I guessed was the same kid. Fast forward another 5 years, still with the same girlfriend, and by this time we had a 2-year-old daughter. We were living in my old bedroom at my parents' house. My daughter would wake up at the same time every night and start talking. For a while we thought it was a normal baby thing, until I noticed it was almost the same conversation every night. I playfully asked her one night who she was talking to every night. She responded, "A little boy. He talks to me. He's nice. He's lost and looking for his mommy." I told my mom what happened the next morning, and before I got to tell her what I thought, she said, "I remember when that happened to you, then your girlfriend. I have no idea what that is. By then, neither my girlfriend nor I have seen the little boy after our first encounter, but my daughter continued her nightly conversations until we got our own place later that year." So there's that one. That's kind of creepy too. Yeah. But here's the last one I'm going to read for you guys. This is the third one. It's called The Whispers. This one's a little long, but I'm going to try to get through it. So here it is, The Whispers. This is a story I do not often tell. I promise sincerely that this has scarred me for life, and although I have looked into psychological explanations for what I heard and natural explanations for what occurred, they remain unsatisfactory. When I was a child, I was scared of the dark. I swore to my mother I heard voices in it. They were not evil, but they were not familiar, and so they scared me. It was not uncommon in the middle of the night for me to wake up and hear whispers, as I would call them, when asking my mom. She figured they were just bumps in the night and typical kid nightmare material. I tried often to explain to her that it was more than that they sounded different from one another the way people's voices do. On some nights, I would get so scared from these whispers that I would sleep in my mom's bed with her. It was an added bonus that the bathroom was directly outside her bedroom door for my late night tinkles. I should add at this point that when walking out into the hall to go to the bathroom, you look directly down directly down the stairs. She figured, yeah, directly down the stairs, sorry. That would lead you into my living room on the first floor, as my mom's bedroom was on the second floor. On one such night around Christmas, I awoke and felt the need to relieve myself. I walked out from the door and distinctly heard the phrase, "Look!" into my astonishment. A red light, almost like a spotlight, was cast upon the wall at the very bottom of the stairs. The light had no other source. It was by itself, and I was transfixed by it. Being a little kid and only being a few days from Christmas, I knew what what the light was. It was Santa. How else could he get into my house to know I was being a good boy? I was so excited to be walking down the stairs to greet him, picking up my pace. Yeah, to the second step. Picking up my pace after the second step as it began to creep off the wall and fade into the darkness of my living room. That's when I heard him. A very strong masculine voice. Different from the first, not at all like my father's, not to say he isn't masculine. It was just distinctively different. It said, "Stop, right now, go back up those stairs." I listened, turned around, and what happened next I'm not sure I would believe if someone had told me the same story. After reaching the top of the stairs, I heard a very loud crash that sent me running back to my mother's bed, where I jumped straight under the covers and stayed there the whole night. When we awoke the next morning, the poinsettia lights, little Christmas flower lights that glowed red, my mother had put on the railing down the stairs, were pulled straight down to the bottom of the stairs, some broken from what seemed like a forceful tear, laying in a single pile. The dry sink in my living room had fallen from the wall. My mother could not explain it. My father was worried we had been the victims of a home invasion. My sister was crying. There was nothing missing. Nobody had broken in. There did not seem to be any reason this had happened. Then I saw it, and I kept quiet about it because I was so afraid that I could not force words out of my mouth. There, on the edge of the wooden dry sink, which had been facing up, were 3 indentations where the finish on the wood had been worn, almost as if in a forceful grip. Something down there had grabbed it and threw it down. That was what the bang was. I was mortified. After that day, I never heard a single voice again. I do not like to imagine what was waiting downstairs for me that night. Wow. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoy these types of videos, because I know I do. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video today. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Comment down below letting me know what you thought of it and all that. And you can comment down anything. And also, please send me stories no matter what. If it's not scary, if it's not paranormal, if it's not even related to stuff that I like talking about, like creepy or whatever, that's fine. So, yeah, I love you guys. I will see you tomorrow in my video. Hope you have an amazing night and amazing day all your life. And I'll see you in the next video tomorrow. Bye, guys.